She walked through the marble lobby in a simple navy dress, and the man behind the desk looked at her like she was trash. 30 seconds later, he slapped her across the face in front of everyone. He had no idea she owned the building. But what happened next exposed a betrayal so twisted, it almost destroyed everything her dead husband built with his bare hands. This is the story of how one slap revealed a conspiracy that reached into her own family. And before you judge what she did about it, you need to hear everything. Because the truth she uncovered didn't just ruin careers. It tore apart blood ties and exposed the ugliest side of greed. Stay until the end, because the twist involves someone she trusted more than anyone alive. Let me take you back 3 years, so you understand why that slap meant more than pain. 3 years ago, Rachel buried the love of her life. Her husband wasn't just her partner. He was her best friend, her dreamer, her builder. They started with absolutely nothing. 2 college kids working 3 jobs each just to afford rent, eating cheap noodles most nights, sleeping on a mattress on the floor because they couldn't afford a bed frame. But they were happy. They had each other and they had a plan. Her husband wanted to build hotels, real ones, places where people felt valued no matter what they wore or how much money they had. He used to tell her late at night when they were too tired to sleep, "Rachel, when we make it, promise me something. Promise you'll never forget what it feels like to be invisible. Promise you'll see people." She promised. She meant it with everything in her heart. For 10 years, they built their first hotel from nothing. They painted walls themselves, cleaned bathrooms, carried furniture upstairs until their backs screamed. Her husband worked construction every single day. He couldn't just sit in an office and give orders. He needed to touch every brick, check every corner, make sure it was perfect. Then one Tuesday morning, everything shattered. She got the call at work. There had been an accident at the construction site. A steel beam collapsed. Her husband was underneath it. Rachel dropped her phone and ran. She ran 12 blocks in work shoes, lungs burning, heart exploding. When she got there, she saw him on the ground. She knew before anyone said a word. She just knew. His last words in the hospital, holding her hand with whatever strength he had left, were simple. "Stay kind, stay humble, finish what we started. Don't let them change who you are." 3 hours later, he was gone. Rachel was 31 years old, suddenly alone, unfinished hotel, mountains of debt. Everyone told her to sell, his family, their friends, business partners. Everyone said she couldn't do it without him. But they didn't understand. That hotel wasn't just concrete and glass. It was every sacrifice they made together, every dream they whispered in the dark, every moment they chose each other when the world told them to quit. She couldn't let it die with him. So she didn't. Rachel finished that hotel, then built another, then another. 3 years later, she owned 5 luxury hotels across the state. She was successful by every standard, wealthy, respected. Her name meant something in the industry. But inside, she was still that broken woman who lost everything that mattered. Success felt hollow without him there to share it. She kept her promise, though, stayed humble, wore simple clothes, drove a normal car, lived in the same small apartment they'd shared. And every year on the anniversary of his death, she wore navy blue, his favorite color, on her. He used to say she looked like the ocean in navy, calm and deep and beautiful. She'd laugh and kiss him and tell him he was being silly. She'd give anything to hear him say it one more time. Last month, something happened that changed everything. An envelope appeared on her office desk. No return address, just her name handwritten on the front. Inside was a typed message on plain paper. "Your flagship hotel is stealing from you. Check the books. Trust no one." That was it. No signature, no explanation. Rachel's first thought was to throw it away. She got weird mail sometimes. People wanting money, people with complaints, people who thought they could run her business better than she could. But something about this letter felt different, felt urgent, felt real. So she checked the financial reports for the flagship hotel. Everything looked normal, revenue steady, expenses in range, profit margins healthy. But the letter said trust no one, and that stuck in her mind like a splinter. If someone was stealing, they'd make the books look clean. She needed to see things herself, with her own eyes. That's when Rachel decided to go undercover. She chose the anniversary of her husband's death, 3 years to the day. She woke up that morning and pulled out the navy dress, the simple one she'd worn dozens of times with him. No jewelry except her wedding ring, no makeup except a little mascara. She looked in the mirror and saw herself the way she used to be, just Rachel, not Rachel the CEO, not Rachel the hotel owner, just her. She took a regular taxi to the flagship hotel, didn't call ahead, didn't tell anyone she was coming. She wanted to see how her staff treated ordinary people, people who walked in off the street looking for a room, people without fancy cars or designer bags. She wanted to know if they were honoring his vision, or if they'd become exactly what he never wanted them to be. When Rachel arrived, the doorman stood outside scrolling his phone. She walked right up to the entrance. He didn't look up, didn't open the door. She stood there waiting. He kept scrolling. So she opened it herself and walked into the lobby. The lobby was stunning. Marble floors, crystal lights, fresh flowers everywhere. Her husband had designed this space, chosen every detail. Standing there, she could almost feel him beside her, pointing out the architecture, explaining why he picked that exact shade of cream for the walls. The memory hurt so much, she closed her eyes for a second. When she opened them, she saw the front desk. Two women stood there chatting, laughing about something on one of their phones. Rachel walked up and waited to be noticed. They kept talking. She cleared her throat softly. Nothing. She waited 5 full minutes. They completely ignored her. Then a couple walked in behind her. Designer luggage, expensive clothes, the woman wearing sunglasses that probably cost more than most people's rent. Immediately, both women at the desk sprang into action. Big smiles, warm greetings, falling over themselves to help. Rachel stepped aside and watched them get checked in. Warm towels, free champagne, personal escort to their room. When they left, Rachel approached again. One woman finally looked at her. The expression on her face was pure annoyance, like Rachel was ruining her day just by existing. The woman sighed. Yes, what do you need? Rachel smiled politely. Good morning. I'd like information about your rooms, please. The woman looked her up and down slowly, eyes taking in the simple navy dress, the lack of jewelry, the regular purse. Then she said, our rooms start at $500 a night. Can you afford that? The words hit like ice water. Not because Rachel couldn't afford it, she owned the building, but because of how the woman said it, the contempt in her voice, the assumption that Rachel was too poor to belong there. Rachel thought about all the times she and her husband had been treated this way when they were struggling, when they'd walk into nice places to dream about their future, and people would look at them like they were dirt. She kept her voice calm. Yes, actually, I'd like information about your suite options. The woman actually laughed, right in Rachel's face. We don't waste time on window shoppers. If you're not booking, please step aside. That's when Rachel noticed something that made her heart skip. The woman wore a designer watch. Rachel recognized the brand. She'd looked at them once herself. That watch cost at least $8,000. Rachel knew exactly what she paid her staff. No way this woman could afford that watch on her salary. Not honestly. Suspicion bloomed in Rachel's chest. I'd like to speak with your manager, please, she said firmly. The woman smirked, exchanged a look with her coworker. Oh, you'll regret that. She picked up the phone. A few minutes later, a man walked out from the back office. Manager Derek. Rachel had hired him herself 2 years ago. Excellent background check, impressive resume, Great interview. She trusted him to run her flagship property, the hotel that meant the most because her husband designed it. Derek walked up and looked at Rachel the same way the woman had, complete disgust. He wore an expensive suit, perfectly tailored. His shoes alone probably cost $2,000. He crossed his arms. What's the problem here? Rachel took a breath. I'm interested in booking a suite, but I'm having trouble getting information. He cut her off. Look at yourself. You think you belong here. This is a five-star hotel. Other guests in the lobby started staring. Staff members gathered nearby. Rachel heard some of them snickering. Her face burned with shame. But underneath the embarrassment, she noticed everything. Derek's watch, a real one, expensive, at least $30,000 on his wrist. She tried to keep her voice steady. I have money. I can pay for a room. Derek stepped closer, using his height to intimidate her. This is a five-star hotel, not a charity shelter. We have standards here, a certain kind of guest, and frankly, you don't meet our requirements. Rachel's hands shook, not from fear, from rage. This was her hotel, her husband's dream, and this man was treating her like garbage for not looking rich enough. Please, I just need. That's when it happened. Derek's hand came up fast and struck her across the face. The slap echoed through the lobby like a gunshot. Rachel's head snapped to the side. Her cheek exploded in pain, eyes watering immediately. Everything went silent. Then his voice again, loud and cruel. Get out, you filthy beggar. Security, remove this woman. Rachel stood there, hand on her burning cheek, tears streaming down her face. But she wasn't crying from pain. She was crying from pure rage. This man just assaulted her, in her own hotel, in the building her husband died creating, in the lobby he designed with his own hands. Rachel turned and walked out before security could touch her. She went straight to her car, got in, sat there shaking. Her whole body trembled with anger. She looked at herself in the mirror, saw the red mark blooming across her cheek. Then she made a decision. This ended today. Rachel pulled out her phone. First call went to her private investigator. I need everything on Derek Wilson, manager at my flagship hotel, everything, bank accounts, properties, lifestyle connections. I need it in 1 hour. Second call to her head of security. Pull all surveillance footage from the flagship hotel, past 6 months. Focus on the manager's office, storage rooms, anywhere staff go that customers don't see. Send it immediately. Third call to her accountant. Complete audit of the flagship hotel, every transaction, every invoice, every vendor payment. Drop everything else. Do this now. Then she sat in that car and waited. Her cheek throbbed, heart pounded, but her mind was crystal clear. Something was very wrong, and she was going to find out what. Exactly 53 minutes later, her phone rang. The investigator, his first words were, Rachel, you need to sit down. She was already sitting, but she gripped the steering wheel anyway. Tell me. What he said in the next 5 minutes made her blood turn to ice. Derek had been stealing money for 18 months. Fake vendor invoices for supplies never delivered. Ghost employees on payroll whose salaries he collected. Skimming money from customer payments. Total amount stolen, over $2 million. But that wasn't the worst part. Rachel, the investigator said carefully, he wasn't working alone. I traced the money transfers. Most of the stolen funds went into an account belonging to James Turner. Rachel's world tilted. James Turner, her brother-in-law, her dead husband's older brother, the man who stood at the funeral with tears streaming down his face, the man who hugged her and promised to always protect her, the man on her board of directors because she trusted him completely. That's impossible, she whispered. James wouldn't. There's more. I pulled text messages between Derek and James. Rachel, they've been planning this for months. They wanted to drain the company, create enough debt to force you into selling. Then James planned to buy the entire chain at a fraction of its value. He sent screenshots. Rachel read them with shaking hands. Messages between Derek and James, laughing about her, calling her the emotional widow, saying she was too stupid and grief-stricken to notice anything, making jokes about her husband. One message from James said, "My idiot brother died for this dream, and now his pathetic wife is going to hand it to me on a silver platter." Rachel sat in that car and screamed. Actually screamed, loud and long until her throat hurt. They mocked her husband. They mocked his death, called his dreams stupid, and they'd been systematically destroying everything he built, everything she fought 3 years to preserve. Then she remembered his voice, his last words. "Stay kind, stay humble." Rachel wiped her tears, looked at her reflection. "I'll be kind to people who deserve it," she said out loud. "But to the people who spit on your grave, I'll be justice itself." She got out of the car and walked back into that hotel. This time she wasn't nervous, wasn't scared. She was a storm, and they had no idea what was coming. Derek saw her walk back in, his face twisted with rage. "You again, I told you to." Rachel held up her hand. "I have one question for you, Derek." He crossed his arms, irritated. "Make it quick." She looked him right in the eyes. "How long have you been working with James?" The change in his face was instant. Every drop of color drained away. His eyes went wide. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. He looked like someone punched him in the stomach. "I don't know what you're talking about," he finally stammered, but his voice shook. Rachel pulled out her phone, showed him the screenshots. Bank transfers with his name, text messages between him and James, fake invoices, everything. His legs actually trembled. She watched him reach out to steady himself against the desk. The woman at the front desk looked confused. Other staff members gathered. Guests had phones out recording. The entire lobby watched this unfold. Rachel's security team walked in through the front entrance. She'd called them before coming back. They positioned themselves at all exits. Rachel turned to face everyone in that lobby, said loudly and clearly, "My name is Rachel Turner. I own this hotel." The silence was absolute. You could have heard a pin drop on that marble floor. Staff members gasped. The woman's mouth fell open. Employees looked at each other in shock. Derek started backing away. Rachel kept talking, voice steady and cold. "For 18 months, this man has been stealing from my company, stealing from the business my husband died building. He worked with my own family member to systematically destroy everything we created together." Derek fell to his knees, literally dropped right there in the lobby. "Please," he gasped, "please, I can explain. I was desperate. I had debts," James said. "James," Rachel interrupted, "is about to have a very bad day." She pulled out her phone and dialed his number. He answered on the second ring. "Rachel, darling." His voice was warm, smooth, the voice of family. "How are you? What can I do for you?" "Come to the flagship hotel," she said flatly. "Right now." "Is everything all right? You sound upset." "Just come, James. We need to discuss your investment in the company." She could almost hear him smile through the phone. He probably thought she was calling for his help with something. "I'll be there in 30 minutes, he said. Those 30 minutes felt like hours. Police arrived. Rachel had called them too. They stood with Derek, who sat on the floor with his head in his hands, completely broken. Staff members whispered frantically. Some tried to quietly leave, but security stopped them. Then James walked through the front door. He was smiling, confident, wearing an expensive suit. He saw Derek on the floor, saw the police. His expression changed. He tried to turn around, but security was already behind him. Rachel walked straight up to her brother-in-law, the man who held her hand at her husband's funeral, who gave a speech about brotherhood and family and love, who promised to help honor her husband's memory. "You stood at his grave and cried," she said quietly. "You held my hand, you called me family, and all along you were planning this." James's mask fell away. The warmth disappeared from his eyes, replaced by something cold and hateful. "He was a fool," James said, voice sharp and bitter. "My younger brother, always the favorite, always the one with grand dreams. Everything should have been mine. I'm the older brother. I was supposed to inherit everything from our father, but he left it all to your precious husband instead." The truth poured out like poison. Years of jealousy, resentment. James had always envied his brother, hated that he was successful, that he was happy, that he was loved. When Rachel's husband died, James saw opportunity. He waited until she was broken and grieving, positioned himself as her helper, her advisor, someone she could trust. And while she drowned in grief, he'd been planning to steal everything. "You're pathetic," James spat. "Walking around in cheap dresses, pretending to be humble, living in that sad little apartment like some kind of saint. You don't deserve this empire. You didn't build it. He did, and he's dead." The lobby was completely silent. Everyone heard every word. Rachel felt tears on her face again, but this time they weren't from rage. They were from grief, fresh and raw. Because hearing James say those things, hearing him mock the man she loved, it was like losing her husband all over again. But she didn't break. She stood up straight, looked James in the eyes. "You're right, he built this, and that's exactly why I'm going to protect it. Officers, he's all yours." Police arrested James right there. Fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy. They put handcuffs on him while he screamed and threatened lawsuits and called her every name he could think of. Rachel watched them take him away, this man who'd been family, and she felt nothing but emptiness. Then she turned to the assembled staff. 40 people stood there watching her. Some looked scared, some looked guilty, some looked defiant. "Everyone who knew about this and stayed silent," she said clearly, "you're fired. Everyone who treated customers the way I was treated today, you're fired. Everyone who enabled this culture where people are judged by their clothes and appearance, you're fired. Clean out your lockers and leave." Some people cried. Some begged. Some admitted they suspected something was wrong but were too scared to speak up. Rachel understood fear, but she didn't accept it as an excuse. Not for this. Not in her husband's hotel. She fired 40 people that day. Then closed the hotel for 2 complete weeks. During those 2 weeks, Rachel did something she should have done 3 years ago. She hired entirely new staff. But this time, she didn't hire based on fancy resumes or hotel experience. She hired people who understood struggle, people who'd been overlooked, judged, dismissed. She hired a former homeless man as her head doorman because he knew what it felt like to be invisible. She hired a single mother as her front desk manager because she knew what it felt like to be desperate. She hired people who had empathy carved into their souls by life itself. Rachel trained them personally, every single one. She told them her story about her husband, their dreams, what this hotel was supposed to represent. She told them that luxury isn't about excluding people. It's about making everyone feel like they matter. She cried in front of them, laughed with them, built a team based on respect and human dignity. 3 months later, something beautiful happened. The flagship hotel became the highest-rated hotel in the entire city. Customer reviews poured in praising the warmth, the kindness, the genuine care they received from staff. Revenue actually increased. But more than that, Rachel saw her employees smiling, actually smiling, happy to come to work, proud of what they were doing. She finally found out who sent that anonymous letter. A housekeeper named Sophia. She'd worked at the hotel for 6 years, seen Derek's corruption, but had been too afraid to speak up because she was undocumented and thought she'd be sent away if she made trouble. She sent the letter anonymously, because she couldn't stand watching the hotel she loved being destroyed from inside. Rachel called Sophia into her office and told her she knew about the letter. Sophia started crying, apologizing, begging not to be fired. Instead, Rachel promoted her to operations manager, helped her start getting legal papers, told her she saved the company and deserved to be rewarded for her courage. Today, 3 years and 1 month after her husband's death, Rachel runs 5 successful hotels. James and Derek are both in prison. She recovered most of the stolen money through court, but more importantly, she rebuilt the culture of these hotels from the ground up. Every Tuesday, she still wears navy blue. She walks through each hotel in simple clothes, sits in lobbies, watches how staff treat customers, making sure they're honoring the vision, making sure no one else gets slapped for looking poor, making sure her husband's dream stays alive the way he wanted it. That slap Derek gave her was the wake-up call she needed. It showed her that success had made her blind. She'd been so focused on growing the business, on proving she could do it alone, that she stopped paying attention to the culture inside her own companies. She hired the wrong people, trusted the wrong family member, almost lost everything because she was too grief-stricken to see what was happening right in front of her. But Rachel learned something important through all this. You don't need to be cruel to be strong. You don't need to forget where you came from to move forward, and family isn't always blood. Sometimes the people who truly care about you are the ones who stand beside you when everyone else walks away. People like Sophia who risked everything to do the right thing. Her husband used to say that true luxury is treating everyone like they're worth your time, your attention, your respect. He was right, he was always right. And now, 3 years after she lost him, Rachel is finally running their company the way he would have wanted, with humility, with kindness, with the understanding that every person who walks through their doors has a story, has struggles, has dignity that deserves to be honored. That slap changed everything. The pain led her to the truth. The betrayal made her stronger. And today she can look at her husband's picture on her office wall and honestly say, I kept my promise. I finished our dream, and I never let them change me. Thank you for listening to this story. Thank you for being here. I'll see you in the next.